All right, everybody. So hopefully the recording is going. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's going. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So this is the lecture two for week two. And what it says here is that we're going to be doing as many exercises from Zybooks as possible. And we will look at Zybooks, but the first thing we're going to do actually is finish up some stuff that I wanted to do in the lecture slides from last time. So just as a reminder, this third link here that says extra reading section 2.2 in Java Notes 9, this is a textbook. And if you download this textbook, which I just did, then, well, it's still downloading. There we go. Then this can be used as a reference just to download and have on your own computer. And it covers a lot of details that you might be interested in. So we're doing variables right now. And so you can see that that's section 2.2. And so there's more information here if you want to read more about this stuff. But every topic in Java is in here, so that's nice. Now, I'm not going to lecture from that book. I'm going to lecture from these lecture slides. So I have the lecture slides loaded in here. And we did these lecture slides in the previous video, but we only got to a certain point. And I don't know if I'm going to want to continue on these slides or do some different ones, but let's scroll down to see where we finished up. So we learned about variables last time, what primitive types are and reference types are. We learned that you could use int pretty much as the one that we use when we need integers. And we learned to use double when we're going to be talking about floating point things. Now, where we finished up, I believe, is that we needed to know how to get input into the computer, which is in this week's lab and also in the Zybooks. Okay, so I think this one just kind of finishes up here. Yeah, I don't like the way this is. So we'll switch to, um, well, where would it be? I don't have my old material. Well, I'll just kind of talk about it then. Yeah, we'll just kind of talk about it. So I'm going to load up Eclipse, and Eclipse is already loaded actually here. And I'm going to create a new project just to use as an example right now. So I can do that by going to the File menu and then creating a new Java project. I can call it whatever I want. I'll call this Lecture 2. Maybe it should be Lecture 3. And then I'll hit Finish. Of course, I make sure to uncheck this box that says module info.java. Uh, click Finish. I have an empty project. To get the file in the right place, I will click the little thingy next to the lecture 3, click into source, src, and then either use the file menu or right click to get to new class. So I get to new class. I can call this whatever I want. I have to follow the rules. In the lecture that we just did, we learned that the rules for classes were that you had to start with an uppercase letter. You can't use spaces, but letters and numbers and digits are okay. So I'll call this lecture 3 like this, and I'll check the box that says public static void main string args. That creates an empty project, and we're good to go. Now, like I said last time, we learned about variables. So we learned that you could declare an integer variable, something like this, right? So this is a creates an integer variable named x. We learned that. We learned how to do doubles, make y a double. So that would create a decimal variable. I'm saying decimal, but the computer term is floating point variable named y. And we learned last time that we could just assign them values and we can do math with them, right? Like I can say x equals 8 and x would be 8. And I could say y equals, I don't know, 3.14, which is a decimal value. Now you can't make y, or sorry, you can't make x a decimal value. Like you can't make x equal 8.5, or I said 6. You can't make x be 8.6. You can see that if I try to, as soon as I type 0.6 over here, you'll notice that we get a little thing just kind of telling us, a little red X here, that says there's going to be an error. And if you try to save this, I'll just save it with Control S and try to run it with run, it'll warn me again that there's an error. And if I keep going, I'll eventually get this error here that it can't convert from a double to an int. Um, so you can only assign the correct things to the variables. So if x is an integer, you can only put an integer in it. And if y is a decimal number, you can only put a decimal number in there. But it is okay to do something like this, y equals 3, because 3 and 3.0 are both the same thing, right? So this is not going to be an error. You just have the option of um, using decimal places. Okay, so this is where we were last time. But now what we need to know is we need to learn how to um, get input from the user. Okay, and so this is in those lecture slides that I linked here. It's just not really organized super well. So one thing you can say here is it says keyboard input. So we're going to be typing from the keyboard, requires import java.util.star at the beginning of the file. Technically, this isn't 100% correct. This will work, but the way we'll normally see it is this way: import java.util. And instead of a star, you can just type the word scanner, because that's what we actually need is the scanner class. Okay? Why is it highlighted weird? I don't know. Oh, because I'm not using it, I guess. All right. So you have to have that at the top to get started. This would be for keyboard input. That's necessary. Notice where this is. It's not inside of the class, it's above the class. Okay. So you got to get it in the right place. Then the next page will say that you need to, data can be entered from the keyboard using, and then it has this line here. Now I'm going to type it and then I'm going to change it. So the line that we need, I'll put it here, scanner, it says keyboard over there, equals new scanner system.in. You have to pay attention to the capitalization here. So scanner is a class, which means it needs to have an uppercase letter. Scanner is a class, which means it has an uppercase S. System also has an uppercase S. You should be already kind of familiar with that because we do system.out.println all the time, right? It's the same system. So capital S. If you type it wrong, your code won't work. So you gotta be careful. There's something here. What's it complaining about? Oh, just another you're not using it thing. Now, this is what it says in that document. However, this is creating a variable. So just like we say int x and double y, well, scanner keyboard is creating a variable. The type is scanner. The keyboard is the name, just like x or y. And so that means that keyboard could be anything. And what you'll see in Zybooks and in the labs is I am always going to use SC in R. I use SC in R just to match Zybooks. So you're going to see that all the time. You're not going to see it called keyboard. Okay. So SC and R there. So this is necessary as well. So just like I said, for keyboard input, this is also for keyboard input. So you have to have those. Okay. You need this line, import Java util scanner. And inside of your main, you need this line, scanner stnr equals new scanner system in. You can remember it, you can write it down, copy paste it from one project to another project, but you need to be able to do it, okay? Now, what that lets us do is instead of having us type in numbers like this, we'll be able to have the user type them in. Okay. So the way this works, I'll just delete those. The way it works to have a user get user input, or let's say X. Okay, how would you do it? Well, what you want to do is first you tell the user that they need to type something in. If you don't tell them, they're not going to know. So you would use a system.out. Let's say print for this, the auto completed in a way that's annoying. Um, so you just say something like enter a number or type a number or whatever you want. Okay, so I'm just going to tell the user to type a number. Now let me run my program just to show you. I go run, run, enter a number. Okay, so that's to tell the user that they need to do that, right? So this is just like tell user to type a number. Otherwise, they won't know. The next thing you need to do is actually read it. So now we want to use our scanner object, okay? So the way you read an integer is you need a variable to store it. So I have an integer here called x, right? So if I want to store something in the variable x, I just say x equals, right? And if I said like x equals 8, then x is 8. But if I want to read something from the keyboard, I can get it from the scanner scnr. So what you would type is scnr dot, and then you can see it wants to autocomplete. All of these things are inside of the scnr, the scanner class. Uh, the one that we want is the one to read an integer, which is just next, lowercase n, and then int, uppercase I. And when you call methods, which is what this is, you have to have these parentheses at the end. So if you forget the parentheses, it won't work. So x equals scnr dot next int, semicolon, that is going to read a number. And now I'm going to say read a number from the keyboard. Hey, that's what that does. So we run our code now, run, run. It says enter a number, but the difference between last time and this time is I can click in this box down here, anywhere in here, and there's actually a cursor in there, and I can type a number. So I can say 3, 4, 5, enter. And when I pressed enter, this word terminated appeared here, which is telling us our program is finished running. So when I run it again, you don't see terminated, right? You won't see terminated until I type in a number and then hit enter, and now it's done. Okay. So that's how you would read a number in. If you wanted to read a floating point or a decimal number, it's almost the exact same thing, right? I can even copy all this stuff here. So I'll select all 3 lines. I can do edit copy or Control C or Command C on a Mac. Paste it here. And I'll just say, change the comment to say Y, change this to say Y. And the only difference is now we are typing in like a decimal number, right? So I'll tell the user we're typing in a decimal number, and then it will not be next int because int is for integer. It will be next double. Okay. And so now if we run our code, so I saved it, so I'll do run, run. It says enter a number. I'll click down here. I'll type in something, 456. I'll press enter, and now it's asking me for another number. So for another number, now I would be able to type in like a decimal number. So I could say 2.97, oops, 2.975, enter. Okay. And so both of those numbers are now in variables, right? If I can use whatever types I want. So if I want this to be another integer, I can just go back up here to the y and change that to int. But if I make y an integer up here, well, first of all, this is a y. So it's now an integer. And I can get rid of the word decimal here. And I would have to change this back to int. And the reason I changed that to an integer was just to kind of illustrate the fact that as we're writing programs now, you can see that a change in one place might necessitate a change in various places, right? Like the fact that y is an integer is reflected here in the declaration where we declare the variable. It was also reflected in the comment, like the comment referred to it as a floating point, but now it's not. Also down here, if y is an integer, it needs to be next int. If it was a floating point number, it would need to be next double, right? It has to match the type. So be careful. Visually, there will be nothing different when I run this, though. Enter a number 5, enter a number 8. And then there we go, we're done, right? So we were reading in these things. Once they're read into variables, you can do whatever you want, right? So like if I were to just do a system dot out dot, let's say print line, and I'll just say, I'm just going to do something like maybe dumb. I'll just do like x 2x plus y is, right? So that's just text there. And then if I want 2x plus y, how would you get 2 times x plus y? You'd have to type in 2 times with the star x plus y and semicolon at the end of the line. And that's going to be 2x plus y. And that's what I said I'm going to output. So if I run this, run, enter a number, I'm going to put a small number so we can think about it. 2, enter a number 1, and it says 2x plus y is 5. And that's correct, right? Because x is 2, so 2 times 2 is 4, plus y is 1. So 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. So we actually got the correct answer down here. So the point is that these variables actually do contain the numbers that we had typed in, right? And I can run this again, type in different numbers. And of course, if I type in different numbers here, I get a different answer here. Okay. So that's the main thing kind of that you needed to learn. And now let's go over to the zyBooks and see what we can see. So click over here to our assignments. Oh, also, while we're doing this, and some people may watch this, remember what I said in an announcement yesterday, which is that for all of the assignments, you need to make sure that you navigate over to zyBooks from the individual assignment. So what that would look like is like click week 1 reading, click load week 1 reading, right? So I got over here to zyBooks. I'll close it now. Oh, that's not what I want. I have to go back to school. So we clicked on week 1 reading, click week 1 homework, load week 1 homework in a new window. It loads it up. Just make sure you do what I just did at least one time for every assignment, because if you don't, then your grades won't transfer. So just to show you, right, I'm going to click on my library here, go back into the thing. If I look at the assignments for a class and look, week 1 homework, 16 students have scores in zyBooks that are out of sync. Let me click back and click in. 16 students have scores that are out of sync. Okay. That's because of this issue. So if I tried to make the grades go over to Canvas, out of sync users submit grades. Look, 4 scores, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope, just 10. 15, 14, 15, 16. Right? So there are 16 people that have not loaded this week 1 homework assignment, or maybe they haven't paid. I don't know if they'll have the same issue. But yeah, so those grades are not going to be transferred to Canvas right now because you haven't navigated over here from Canvas. So you need to make sure that you go over to Zybooks from the assignment at least one time per assignment. Otherwise, it doesn't know where the grade goes in Canvas. Okay. So that's also true for the week 2 stuff. So I'm going to open the week 1 again. I know we were just there, but I'll do it again and load it up. And remember that you have all these exercises to do. Now I'm going to try to get to programming the challenge exercises. So this is the week 1 stuff. So there's not really anything in the first section. So we'll go to the second section, which is loading slow for some reason. Scroll through. Eventually you'll get down to some challenge exercise, which I've already done. But we'll try to do some of these. So I'll click start and we'll take a look at these. Now, the very first couple are very simple. So I'll jump like later on. I'll jump to like number 4 and see what exercise 4 is. So when you're looking at these exercises, they expect you to know what I just taught you. So it says write scnr.nextInt statement to read an integer from input and assign the integer to a variable named numPeaches, right? So they expect you to understand this from like what I just talked about when I was over in Eclipse, which is to assign a variable, the variable goes on the left side. So they say numPeaches is our variable name. So numPeaches equals, and then they say we want to write an scnr.nextInt statement. Well, scnr.nextInt. There you go. This is what they want. That's all they're asking for here. Okay, so the variable is numPeaches, and the right-hand side here, scnr.nextInt, that will read an integer from the keyboard. So I just hit check, and it'll just be right. Now, we didn't need to do the rest of the program because they already wrote most of the program. They only asked for one line here. Okay, and so most of the questions in the week 1 were like this. I'll just finish this one. So reading this problem here, what does it say? Read 3 integers from input using 3 scnr.nextInt statements, okay? And assign them to side 1, side 2, side 3. Okay, all they want is you to do what we just did 3 times. So side 1, right, they're right here so you can see the names. Side 1 equals scnr.nextInt, semicolon. What's the next one? Side 2 equals scnr.nextInt, semicolon. Do you have to type it every time? No, because you could copy and paste and just change the name. Okay, so that's the first thing it says to do. Then we can keep reading. Then use system.out.println statement to output the sum of the 3 integers, followed by a new line. New line means it goes down to the next line when you're done, which is what the print ln statement does. So you don't have to think super hard about that. We just need system.out.println, which we know is for printing stuff to the console. And then inside of that, we just want side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. And that's what it asks for. If you look at the example here, it says if the input is 21, 11, 17, the output is 49. Okay. We don't have the actual numbers here, right? They're going to type them in. So read 3 integers in from the keyboard and then print them out. Well, print out the sum. Okay. All right. So those are what we have. We can click over to the next chapter. Now, the next chapter is chapter 2. So that's like what you have to do this week, this week's material. So going through this, right? We learned about comments and white space. And so you can read about this. What they're trying to show you is how to space things on this, like in your code, and how to put in comments. So there's two different types of comments. One starts with slash star and ends with slash star, and everything that you put inside, I said ends with star slash actually, and everything that you put inside is not programming code, right? This is just text. So this is just for somebody to read, and those are called comments. You can also use one-line comments, which you've been seeing me use a lot, where if you just put a slash slash, and then you can type some text, and that will also not be interpreted as programming code. Okay, those are comments, and you see that I've done it all over the place here, right? This is a comment. This is a comment. This is a comment. Everything is a comment here that's grayed out. Okay. And they all start with slash slash. Okay. Not a lot to say. So, which are comments? This is a comment, right? Slash slash. This is a comment. The slash star and ending with star slash, that's a comment. Uh, star slash slash star star slash, valid. This is a valid comment. You shouldn't end it that way, but it's still a comment. This will not work because the whole point of using this version, the one with slash star, is that you only have to do one symbol at the beginning and one at the end, and you can have as many lines as you want. Whereas the one that's slash slash is only from where you type it to the end of the line. So this code won't work. You'd have to have the slash slash on all three lines. Like, yeah, oops. So it's not valid because you have to have it on all three lines. This version is very kind of common. These little asterisks in the middle are not doing anything in terms of commenting. They just kind of make it look a little prettier. Um, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Wow, what happened? Oh yeah, so this is going to be an error because they started a comment with slash star, and then they tried to open another comment with slash star, and you can't. So that's going to be confusing. So this will not be allowed inside of a comment. All right, white space. White space are just, as it says here, blank lines, indented lines like tabs and stuff. Tabs and spaces are what they call white space, okay? And we use white space to help organize our code, even though the white space it doesn't matter in terms of the compiler. Like I can space everything out in a really stupid way and it'll still run, right? Like I can just go like this. I can just get rid of all my indenting, or I could leave some stuff way indented and then bring this over here, put this over here, right? There's lots of dumb stuff that I can do that makes it really hard to read, right? Like this is not easy to read now. What's going on here? I could put these all at the end. You could even combine some lines into one line, but this is very hard to read. And so there's a specific way of doing it to make it look nice. One thing you can do in Eclipse, by the way, is if you select everything, so you can hit like Command A or Control A on a PC, or you can do Edit and you'll find Select All there. Select everything. And then if I go to the, I think, source up here, you can find correct indentation. And if you click that, it'll just kind of put everything back the way it should be. Now, I say everything, but actually it didn't fix these extra braces at the end. But now they're fixed. And it's not going to add extra blank lines. So if you want blank lines between things, you have to add them yourself. but still that was helpful, right? So it's good to know that that exists, the correct indentation thing. Now, here's how it says to do it, and you should try to do this to make your stuff readable. Use blank lines to separate things that look different. So like these are all variables. And then they left a blank line, and then they had a couple of lines to read a number, and then they left a blank line, and then they did something, and then they left a blank line, and then they did something else. And all you always do that too, right? Like, look, variables, and then a blank line. Then I read X, then I had a blank line. Then I read Y, and I deleted some stuff just a minute ago when I was showing you a bad way, right? But the original code was more like this. And this is actually indented wrong still. So this is how my code pretty much looked originally, right? So a couple lines go together, I put together, but then I leave blank lines when I kind of switch topics, like what I'm doing. It's not necessary, but it makes it easier to read. Okay. Now, if you ever get a job as a programmer, they will tell you exactly how you have to do this, and they will make you do it this way, well, whatever way they want it done. So yeah, so like this is easy to read, and the second one is not e easy to read, even though technically this actually still works. Okay. Um, so if you look at this, is this good or bad, or actually specific lines? Um, int next decade. Is this good? They put extra spaces here. I would say that that's bad. We don't want extra spaces there. That's confusing. Um, is this good? No. They like to, we should leave kind of space out the equal sign and stuff. They say to do it up here, like use single space before and after, like equals, plus, star, etc. So this is not good. This one, next decade equals current decade plus one. That's nice. That's good. What about this one? Next milestone equals next day decade times 10. Yeah, that's good too. Oh, it says the statement's not indented the same number of spaces. Well, I couldn't see that here. Here it is. Yeah, right. This should not be indented more. It should be the same level as everything else here. So that was what was wrong there. All right. Here they're trying to point out that your comment does not affect the code, right? The comments don't make the code work or not work. They're just for notes for the user. All right. Spaces are ignored. I think true. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, fine. That's okay. I kind of don't agree with that explanation. How many spaces will the compiler ignore? Uh, well, it's like ignoring that space and that space. That's two, three, four, five, six. So I guess six. Here it's ignoring like the blank lines and the comment. So blank line, comment, blank line, that's three. Okay, so you see there's not much in here. Um, let's go to errors. You're gonna have to start getting used to reading errors, okay? So this is not an exercise. We don't need to do this xide thing. Um, fix the syntax errors. Okay, so we're looking for errors. So is there an error here? Yes. What is the error? Look, they have a dot at the end. You don't put dots, you put semicolons, okay? So that's an error. System.out dogs, num dogs. This looks almost okay, but when you print text plus a variable, the text goes inside of quotes. You need a plus, and then you put the thing that you're trying to print. So there's like a plus here, right? Um, but they missed the plus. So there should be a plus right here, but there isn't. So that's an error too. System.out everyone wins. there's an error here. It's that the first letter is not capitalized. These things are things that you're going to be bad at noticing at first, but you need to try to pay attention so that you can notice them better as time goes on. Okay, like the more you program, the easier it is to see what is wrong immediately. Next one, notice that the text starts with quotes, but there's no ending quote. You have to start and end with a quote. Here, system.out.print Amy Michael. This is probably fine. System.out.print numdogs. If as long as numdogs is actually a variable that exists, then that's fine. Oh, okay. Well, how was I supposed to know? The declared variable was numdogs. Was it? Where did they tell us that? Oh, here. They did tell us that. Okay, fine. So numdogs with a lowercase n, and they used numdogs with an uppercase in there, and that's not the same. So that's an error. What about this? Int numcats. Numcats equals 3. System.out.print numcats. Right? Error. Why? Look, missing semicolon again. System.print numdogs. Error. What's missing? It's supposed to be system.out.print. You see? So you just have to, as you do more and more programming, you'll remember what it looks like when it's right. Okay? Here they're trying to point out that the message from the compiler will sometimes tell you that the error is on a particular line or something, and that will not be correct. So you'll get the error like around where it says, but not maybe exactly where it says. You just have to be aware of that. Participation activity, let's just skip it. Okay. So when you get down to the exercises here, what it wants, do I have to hit a start button? I don't. What you have to do here is it says type the statements, then correct one syntax error in each statement. Statements end in semicolons, strings use double quotes. So they're reminding you. So they're telling you all of these have errors. So I'll copy them all. So I'm just going to edit, copy, come down here. I'll delete this, although it doesn't matter. Paste it right here. I don't like the indenting, so let's fix it, right? We learned how to indent properly, so let's do it. And then read them. These all are supposed to have something wrong with them. So you have to carefully identify what's wrong with them. On the first one, it's print L, but that should be print ln, right? Also, predictions are hard, semicolon. Okay, that looks good. Here, system.out.print, you can do print, especially, uh-oh, look here. That's a single quote. It should be a double quote, so delete that, put a double quote there. Now it looks right. Semicolon at the end. System.out.println about the future. They put a period here. That's a mistake. Should be semicolon. System.out.println num is user num. But this should be, oops. That should have been a plus, right? There was a minus here. So again, you get better at identifying these, but you try to fix them and hit run. If you get an error, they'll tell us the error so we can try to fix it. In this case, we got them all right, but if we got it wrong, we could have fixed it. Okay, same thing here. Now I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to copy all these and I'm going to put them down here and I'll fix the indenting. I'm not going to fix them first. Rather than fixing them, I'm going to hit run and we'll look at the error, okay? So let's click run and we can see the errors maybe. So what are the errors? Error dot class expected. Okay, that's weird. system.out println int song num. Okay, so this error here is actually like, I don't like the words that they said don't really tell you anything, right? But the error is actually you like this little here pointing to the S is kind of where the error is. The error is actually the fact that you do not put int in here. You don't put int in there. So somehow you have to realize that that doesn't go there. Delete it. Let's run it again. We'll get a different error. Now it says parentheses expected, and it says system.out println song num songs. So that's the last line. And if you look here, this is the error that we've seen before, where if you're printing a variable, in this case here, and you're printing text, in this case, the word songs, you have to put a plus between them. So it kind of told you where the problem was, but it didn't tell you really what the problem was, right? Because it says like parentheses expected, but that's not helpful. Right, we didn't type parentheses, we typed a plus sign. So the error message was not great there. You just had to kind of know. Okay, now we have another error. Cannot find symbol num song num. So that's this first one. What's the problem there? Well, this is a variable name, right? Song num. But look, it's supposed to have a capital N. And here it's a lowercase n. This error was actually useful because cannot find symbol means your variable does not exist. That's what cannot find symbol means. So if you know that cannot find symbol means the variable doesn't exist, then you know that it's probably misspelled. So change it to uppercase, try to run it again. And now we're finally passing, right? So that's what we got to do there. More errors here. This is talking about logic errors, which you can read, but basically logic errors where your code runs, it just doesn't do what you wanted it to do. Let's click on to the next section. This is just kind of more basics of programs, so you can read this and work through it on your own. There's no challenge, so we'll go to the next section, 2.4. Integrated developer environment. This one is, you can see IntelliJ IDEA, an IDE for Java. Now we're using Eclipse, and this is not Eclipse. This one right here, it looks a lot like VS Code. It's not technically VS Code, maybe. I use VS Code a lot. Looking down here, let me just open a project. Like this is VS Code. It's another way to organize your projects and stuff. So this is not Eclipse, but it kind of looks like Eclipse. And this kind of looks like Eclipse as well. A lot of the different ones will look similar, okay? But this is just a picture of one of the ways or one of the programs you can use to type your Java code. Notice that it's basically the same as what we got. Like, look, there's the SRC folder, which you got things inside it, and so on. You got a console down here, just like we have a console, etc. So they're showing you the basics here. This is not our IDE, but this is very similar. What is an IDE? The developer environment. Which software is necessary when programming either with or without an IDE? Well, you need a text editor to edit the text, and you need a compiler. You need a compiler to run it. Technically, you don't need a debugger. Which of the following is an advantage of using an IDE? Fewer steps needed when compiling and running a program? Yeah. An IDE uses less memory? No. An IDE is less expensive? No. Right? So the reason we use Eclipse is because Eclipse is going to be easier for you. Fewer steps. Okay. What do you get? You get syntax highlighting, delimiter completion, automatic indentation, right? Like we're relying on that stuff to help us out um, when we're doing our code, right? Like when you type system dot, right? If you forget what you're doing, you can go down here and say out, and then you can do dot, and you go, what are we doing? We're doing print, right? So you can start typing PR. You look down here, print, 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 print. There's print, and then there's print line. So we can do print line, and right, like we can have it help us type our code. And when I type something here and I press enter, it goes down here. It doesn't go back to the beginning of the line. It goes to here, which is where we should be typing. And so that kind of stuff is helpful. And an IDE is what's doing that. Eclipse is what's doing that for us. Okay. Um, can just look at that. Console and command line. We can get those, right? This is the console. So we can get a console down here. That's what we're looking at. Um, I don't really have a command line here right now, but we could make one show up, maybe. Which of the following is displayed in a console? Well, we've seen, right? Look, this is output, and the 6 was what we typed in as input, so input and output. Um, this is an this is an example of how to run a Java program from the command line, which I don't really do in my class. So you can just read the text above this and see. Um, CLI is command line interface, so that's B if you're typing commands. Um, CLI allows program to easily be run with many different arguments. I guess kind of. Using CLI to run a program is faster than using the shortcut button. I don't know if that's true. The CLI allows an already compiled executable to be run without recompiling each time changes are made to the source file. That's true. Um, what? Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't read this right. It says an already compiled executable program to be run without recompiling each time changes are made. No, you have to, like, if you make a change, you have to recompile your program. So that's wrong. I guess this, I don't know. Um, some of these are just kind of vague questions. Um, computer tour, not a lot. You can just read it. Language history, you can read that. So that's the end of week 2, right? So you can see that actually next week is going to be variables. So we're already doing like the week, like we're learning a little bit about variables. Next week in week 3, we're going to be doing like more math. So get some numbers into the computer, and then we will be doing calculations and things for practice. Um, all right. So anyway, we've seen, I think, everything we need to see. Like you saw that in the week 2 Zybooks, there's not that much to it. We did most of it together just now. So going home, what you want to do is try to get through the week 1 and week 2 Zybooks. Make sure you click on all the assignments, right, to get to Zybooks so that your grades will come over to campus correctly. And we got a lab. So the lab in here, lab 1, is pretty straightforward. Watch the video if you're confused. And basically, you're going to be writing a program that looks about like this. Enter a number, you type it in. Enter a number, you type it in. And then we're going to print out the sum, which is addition, difference, which is subtraction, product, which is multiply, quotient, which is divide. The video will do all of it, okay? But basically, if you think about it, going over here, we already did most of this, right? Like if I say the sum is, and then here I replace this with x plus y, I mean, this is basically your lab, right? So you go 17, 3, and it says the sum is 20. And so all you got to really do is just copy what we did in this lecture, print out 4 things instead of one, change them to say difference, product, quotient, run that. I'll say 17, 3. And of course, it says sum difference product quotient now, but the numbers calculated are wrong, 20, 20, 20, 20, because I didn't change the actual math, right? So sum means addition. So this is addition here, x plus y. Difference is subtract. So you go change that to minus. Multiplication is product. So that's done with a star, asterisk. And then quotient is division, which is done with a slash. So this is the lab, right? Essentially what is on the page right now is the lab. Okay. And so if I run it now, 16, 3, and you get 19, 13, 48, and 5. Now, you may wonder, this is done in the lab video as well. You may wonder what's going on with the last one, the 5, because 16 divided by 3 is not 5. It's 5 point something, right? Like if I open up a calculator, you go 16 divided by 3 is actually 5.33. But here it says the answer is 5. Well, that's where you have to remember that we were using integer variables. Integers. There's no such thing as a decimal if you have integers. So when you do 16 divided by 3, it's 5.33, but they just throw away the 5, sorry, they throw away the 0.333. They only keep the 5. Everything after the decimal place is gone. Okay? So that's what's happening there on that last one. And that's just the way integers work. Okay? So don't let that confuse you. All right, so that's it. So that was the lab, but there's also a separate video for the lab. And if you get stuck, you can let me know, or you can come to office hours. That's due next week. All right, so I think that covers all of this week's material. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here. I will talk to you guys later.